Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I pluck the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging them moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine. Living Northwest wild. Hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I pluck the Wainuchi when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging them moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine in the Northwest wild.
Hey, good evening and welcome to Fish on Northwest. Wayne England, Kelly Barnum, of course. Titans baseball.
Yep, it's still baseball season as of now.
Until they tell you it's not, Coach.
Yes.
That kid. Hey, we actually pulled David out of retirement this evening. He's back in the corner over there doing his magic. And if we have any issues tonight, 100% guaranteed his fault.
Yes.
Because he hasn't been here. Right?
Yep,
so,
no alternative.
I anticipate us getting through this with no technical difficulties.
Right.
So we'll see if we can.
The Michael Jordan of IT is back.
He's back in the house, yeah, out of retirement and here front and center. With that, hey, we got a great show lined up for you tonight. Our in-studio guest can be none other than Shane Anderson, friend of mine I've known for quite some time, met back in the days when I was still doing radio, and Shane was like jumping to the forefront as one of the, in my mind, premier short film pioneers in the realm of conservation and things that we really need to know about and understand relative to recovering fisheries and in all facets of salmon and steelhead and all watersheds throughout the Northwest. He grew up here, actually grew up here on Summit Lake. And so it was kind of like nice for him to come home and have dinner alongside the lake here this evening. But Shane has taken time to join us tonight. We've been kind of going back and forth about this Chehalis Dam proposal that a lot of folks are somewhat informed, misinformed, or know very little about.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we're going to clear up a lot of information tonight. We got a lot of time with Shane. We'll show a little bit of about a 3-minute promo intro segment of a portion of his short film that'll be premiering sometime here in the near future in April, hopefully, depending on this COVID-19 situation. So, lots of insightful information to get through with him. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to also cover some LINGCOD how-to in the bait lab. Got a brand new cooking segment coming up later in the show with Chef Kelly and Sheri out of the kitchen this week. Frying up some clams. Why not? Clamming was fantastic this last week. We'll touch on that as we go. Hey, I want to remind everybody, Fish on Northwest is presented by Better Homes and Gardens Pacific Commons, real estate located in Puyallup, Washington, and of course, our good friends out at Defiance Marine in Bremerton, building and selling, of course, the Allied series in their aluminum, and of course, Arima and Defiance in their glass series. Check them out at defiancemarine.com. And with that, lots going on throughout the Pacific Northwest and beyond in Barnum. Kind of a hot topic that's been on the forefront of social media and other media venues this last week. Of course, as we delve into the north of Falcon, we're breaking down the opportunity for fisheries, and I got to tell you, some of it doesn't look like much of an opportunity.
Oh, I didn't see any sunshine and rainbows on the press release.
No, these modeling these salmon opportunity, the salmon opportunity in our 4 ocean fisheries, and then try to move those fish up into your estuary areas and your main stems and all the way up into your tributaries is going to be very difficult. Everybody wants a piece of the pie, and that pie started out as already 3/4 of the way eaten this year, right? So numbers are down. We talked about it last week. I was going to kind of break down some of the stuff going on, but you know, until they really get their hooks into it and start breaking out into session of direction things are going, just understand that our ocean fisheries, especially for coho, are really in the toilet. And they have 3 options on the table. The one that needs to be on everybody's radar is they're considering no fishery at all and minimal opportunity on Chinook. Part of your coho opportunity would be consumed as encounters during your Chinook fisheries. I mean, there's a lot of things to balance out here. How far up or in systems do we allow for coho opportunity? If we take them all out in the ocean, there's nothing left. I mean, there's a lot of balancing to go on here. So instead of kind of going through all of that, because there's a lot of information online, I'm going to give it a week and we'll kind of break it down a little more depth next week, kind of see the direction some of these are going. There's more meetings scheduled. You can get on the WDFW website, look up North of Falcon meetings, find locations and times that might be relevant to you and your fisheries, and maybe stop by on any given evening that they're hosting a meeting and see if you can't learn something, right?
Yeah,
so,
WDFW did just put out a press release right before it went on air that said all meetings will be online only, I think, because of COVID-19.
Thank you, I forgot that, yes. Yeah. So thereby it's actually even easier for people to attend, really. You can get online and stream that and pay attention to what they're talking about. And of course, you can, just like you blow up us here when we make you mad, you can go ahead and give them your insight and yell at them behind your screen. So you got that to look forward to. So yeah, we'll see how that pays out. We have some time to work our way through that, and I'm really concerned as to how those are going to shape up. Yeah, a little concerning.
Scary times in our salmon fishery.
And on the good news front, WDFW did land pretty well on their feet after closure of this legislative session, which just finished up. They, remember, going back, they were asking for $26 million out of general fund to maintain levels of operation, not have to lay folks off, not have to furlough anybody, and also to continue with programs that are currently going on.
Right.
They actually, last week I think we reported that the House was at about 21 million, Senate was at about 24, so they weren't quite getting their full 26. As it turns out, they end up landing at 27 million, which WDFW is pretty ecstatic about.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty happy with that. That being said, 4.6 million, so some of the monies, and again, I'm going to wait till next week to really break this thing down, because there's a lot of information in there, and we got a whole lot of other things going on, so I kind of perused through this just to get a grasp of what's going on. Really going to break it down for you guys next week. It's nice to see, though, that 4.6 million was allocated to restoring the Seuss Creek hatchery on the Green River for Green River Duwamish for Chinook and coho. That's a huge one. That's important. I pretty much assumed that would go through at some level or another, only because it's so important to maintain that hatchery and keep that production up to where it needs to be on the heels of this orca movement, right? It's one that is high on the radar in helping to recover orcas, so it's right there, Central Puget Sound. How could it not be a key player? One of the ones that is a little discerning to realize got passed through, we talked extensively last week towards the end of the show, if you missed it, on the Academy of Science, the proviso that was introduced by Senator Kevin Van D. Wedge, and there was a lot of controversy surrounding that, because we're basically removing part of the process in approving or approval for fisheries. WDFW co-managers come together, they decide on a particular basin, numbers of fish that they're working towards, hatchery production, and how they can model that fishery to land at a point where NOAA takes a look at it and says it falls within conservation constraints and it doesn't impact ESA listings. You can go ahead and plant XYZ number of fish. We're good with it. Now they want to remove part of that process. They want to remove a portion of that, and they want to interject the Academy of Science review now.
And I don't know how to feel about this one, because, I mean, we've all been at times flustered with the process that WDFW has used now. So do we overhaul that and come in with a new process? But then at the same time, I'm like, who is the Academy of Science? And how do we know this process is going to be so much better? And I feel like this all happens so fast. Like, never heard anything about it, and then all of a sudden, bam, shoved down your throat.
It was like a 10-day deal. And both WDFW and the tribes, the co-managers for certain, came in and said, no, we don't need this. We don't need another layer of bureaucracy. We don't need another layer of review in the process. The Hatchery Science Review Group is in place, and they have to follow the Hatchery Science Review doctrine to, land where they need to relative to hatchery production, right? It's all in there. It's all in the plan. It's been working for years. It's very stringent when you start balancing ESA and hatchery science review, right? Now they want to kind of do away with hatchery science review group and interject this Academy of Science. And I guess the biggest rub there is, as we pointed out last week, this is a 9-person panel comprised of tribal members, WDFW, NOAA scientists. So you're thinking, okay, this sounds pretty good. I mean, these people should understand fisheries. Well, then you have 3 persons on the panel, 1/3 comprised of Academy of Science folks who vet the other 6 to say whether you are credentialed enough to join our team.
Right.
The concern there is they have final say whether those folks come on board or not.
Right, and the other thing concerns me is no representation, directly from the sport fishing community. I guess our representation would be WDFW. I mean,
pretty much.
Yeah. So I mean that makes me a little nervous that we can't have at least one seat at the table.
Excuse me. Well, if you want to do some reading, that's kind of interesting. Go, just Google Academy of Science and start looking at the persons like in this Washington chapter of this group, and look at the titles and number of letters behind their names, and the numbers of qualifications they have and what they truly work in. I mean, do I need a guy that works for NASA building rockets to tell me whether or not our hatchery program is going to fit within the ESA listings? That's not the person I want sitting at the table negotiating these fisheries, or telling us yes or no whether or not we can have 200,000 Chinook planted, or no, you can have 2,000 Chinook planted.
And that's where I'm conflicted. I guess time will tell if this process works out better for anglers or worse for anglers. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is the best thing that's happened to fishing in the Northwest in a decade. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe.
Well, it adds another layer, as we talked last week, and it also adds more monies towards that process, which comes out of a line item amongst the hatcheries somewhere. That money has to come from somewhere. Right. Yeah, I get it. They got $27 million. Yeah, I like the fact they're gonna completely rebuild the Seuss Creek hatchery, and there's a lot of other good things in there. If to pass this through, a couple senators leverage their option to say, look, we'll get everybody to sign off on this, but we want this Academy of Science group in there. And that's the politics that is behind the scenes that people don't understand. So we'll kind of keep tabs on that and see where it goes. But I'm a little dissatisfied that that's where that landed. We'll just have to see where it goes. Other than that, this COVID thing is really starting to kick everybody's ass. And concerning, for sure, at work, of course, we deal with it on a daily basis. So there's a lot to it, a lot going on. Washington State is the hotbed, unfortunately. Secondary to our airport and all the travel that goes, to Asia and Europe and everywhere else. This is where it all centered and sprawled out from here. If you want to get away from it for right now, Idaho. So somehow it made its way around Idaho, landed in Montana and Wyoming, and there's Idaho standalone. But it even to the point that today was opening day at 12 o'clock noon of the Central Oregon Sportsman Show, which they ended up canceling about 10 o'clock this morning. So as would be with any sportsman show, they were set up, doors ready to open at noon, vendors were there, booths were set up, presenters were ready to go all day for the weekend, through the weekend with their seminars. 4-day sportsman show down in Redmond. And nope, sorry, park's closed. You guys need to pack up your trailers and get on out of here. And
at this point, so many organizations are ceasing activities. I think that what's going on now is that everybody feels the need to follow suit, because what happens if you have an event and an outbreak happens at your event and 50 people at your event end up coming down with coronavirus and a couple die? Are you liable for a wrongful death? I mean, I understand why they're doing it. It's craziness.
Well, they're doing it also to stop the spread, obviously, right? To keep people from coming together, it's going to minimize. But it shows you the level of this thing when you literally have a sportsman show up and ready to go. The booths were filled. The vendors were all there. Everybody's ready to go. Doors to open at noon, and they shut it down before.
But we know how the sportsman shows do spread the cold around. I mean, we laugh and call it the sportsman show cold.
Dude, I don't know how I made it through Puyallup and Portland without getting sick this year. At all. Maybe it's the vitamin regimen. Maybe it's the Purell. I don't know. anyway, you know, stay safe, stay away from people. I meant to, are we 6 feet?
We probably should be.
There's a lot going on down there, Willapa, Raymond area. And also the Northwest Fly Tire Fishing Expo that was in Lynn County Expo Center is also canceled. Organizers of the Bighorn Outdoor Adventure Show say they are monitoring the situation closely, but their March 19th, 2020 event is still on.
Yeah.
Thinking,
and that's the Spokane show, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't affect those people over there. So.
No, they're
Spokane,
immune.
Idaho, immune to that.
They're absolutely
I don't know what you West Siders are doing, but we're good.
Yeah, we're good. Keep it over there on the other side of the mountain. So I would foresee more closures coming. More things are going to be shut down.
Yes.
Fortunately, we got through a couple of the shows early season before this thing really hit the pandemic. So, hey, we got some turkey seminars, though.
Yes, as of right now, we have not been told that they are canceled. Everything is as of right now at this point. But ODFW, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, is hosting several turkey hunting clinics. You need to register for the workshops online at ODFW's webpage. It's huntfishoregon.com, basically. April 4th is a youth turkey hunting clinic in White River Wildlife Area. They're actually doing two of them April 4th, one in White River, one in Denman. And then April 10th is the adult turkey hunting clinic in E.E. Wilson Wildlife Area. So, I mean, cost is $52. You have to be registered by April 5th, but a great chance if you're an Oregon resident or even a Washington resident down Southwest Washington, want to run down and get a turkey clinic in. Why not?
Turkey hunting is a great segue to get you into some form of hunting.
Yeah, it's kind of the kick back up, you know? I mean, winters happen, all the fall hunting seasons and everything, and it's kind of get you rolling in the outdoors again.
Oh, by the way, I went and pulled my game cameras today because I'd left them over there since I was done hunting.
Mine are still in.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, some serious activity of them bucks still hanging around.
Yeah.
I had one real late November, almost like November 30th or something. Man, neck all rutted up.
Yeah, man, second rut kind of deal. Yeah.
So, and it's interesting too. I'm going to show you those pictures later, but a couple of the 2 points in there, they're the little bucks. They look like twins. The antler growth is almost identical to the way they fork out. It's pretty impressive. I mean, that genetic line is very strong.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's kind of interesting. But if you haven't pulled your game cams in a while, go check them out to see all the activity that's been going on. I got coyotes and you know, tons of raccoons and stuff. But yeah, the deer activity was impressive, even late season, although not a single buck during daylight hours from November 17th, when I shot my deer, all the way through the end of the year. And I had over 2,000 pictures. I take that back. There was one on December 18th, I think at 5:20 p.m. Just at the very end of daylight. Might have been a skosh too dark to shoot, but that big 3x4 came in there. So he's still milling around over there. Oh yeah. Let me get him next year.
It's on.
My number,
we all have target bucks. Hopefully, hopefully mine made it through the winter. We did make a quick trip over this weekend. I had to pick up some tools and whatnot, and we left spring and drove face into winter.
Did you really?
My God.
Cold over there.
Yeah, it was mid-30s, rain and snow mix, but we still had 3.5 feet of snow on the ground. Had dozens and dozens of trees blown over the road. Like, it was definitely winter.
Let's hope it's gone in April, because we are going turkey hunting this year. Right? We're going to get Phelps. We're going to go over there and do some turkey calling. Not that you need to, but... okay, moving on. Hey, did you get out and dig clams this week?
Yeah, I did.
You guys
one
did,
day.
right? Because one of the guys, I think Eric Williamson, said he's... didn't he? Yeah. I was able to, I made a run for Grayland 2 nights in a row. Yeah, and got out there first night with my neighbor buddy Dwayne, and we got our limit in short order. And then, you know, we were here cooking for a couple days with Chef, getting a lot of new recipes ready to go for you guys over the next 9-10 weeks, which tonight, this fried clam, unbelievable, but one you definitely want to stay tuned for. So yeah, Chef and I got done, Sheri got done, we jumped in the truck. You know, it's an hour, 10-minute drive. Less 45 minutes to get a limit. And back home by 8 o'clock. Yeah,
great digging. Like I think the only day I heard I didn't dig, I think it was Friday. I heard Friday was a little tougher, a lot of algae on the beach, hard to see the holes. But I think we were down there Saturday and it was easy. Real easy.
Lots of social media was blowing up with tons
Yeah.
of pictures of clams and people
Right.
digging and families and the sun. I mean, the weather was absolutely
beautiful.
You
Yeah,
would have thought
t-shirt.
it was like an April dig, in which those dates will be coming up as we get into April. We
Yep.
get those morning tides.
Yep.
Now we're talking definitely surf perch opportunity, dig your clams. Hope you're saving your clam necks, because now I'm getting a freezer full of those for my surf perch bait. So good stuff. Really good week of clam digging, and yes, we got that recipe coming up later in the show. With that, hey Barnum, I put out the announcement earlier today. We've shored up all the info for our Fish Out Northwest Max Lure, presenting our Roosevelt Kokanee Roundup. This will be the first installment for us here at Fish Out Northwest. I've done previous events before, but this is the first time we're going to tackle this. We have a great opportunity for you guys to join us over there at Lake Roosevelt and Banks Lake. If you haven't ever been over there to the east side, this is a perfect opportunity for you to join us so that you can drag your boat over there, hang out for a few days. We're going to have seminars put on by the pro staff with Max Lure. They're going to teach you exactly how to fish Roosevelt for kokanee and triploids. They're going to teach you how to fish Roosevelt in Banks Lake for walleye.
That's awesome.
So if you're going to take the time to come over there, instead of having to do it all on your own, you get free seminars. You get to hang out with a bunch of like-minded folks. We got prizes and stuff we'll be giving away at a free raffle. And all you have to do is show up with your boat or your RV or whatever you're going to do. There is some bank fishing opportunity, especially for the triploids on Roosevelt, but you're better off if you have a boat. So team up with some folks, make plans to join us. It's going to be June 4, 5, 6. Now, that's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Seminars are Friday at 4 p.m., Saturday at 1 p.m. I'm going to arrive there Wednesday, because when we're done at Twin Lakes, I'm going to bounce over there a day early, kind of get set up, get ready for everybody to start showing up. Show up on Thursday, get situated. You can show up Friday morning if you want, because the seminar isn't until Friday afternoon, late afternoon. Right. We're just giving folks an opportunity. If you're going to drag your boat over there from the west side, or last time we had people come up from Oregon that joined us. If you're going to do it and you want to spend a few days because of the drive, I opted to say, hey, we're going to start Thursday. Friday is going to be a morning of fishing, then we'll have a seminar in the afternoon. Maybe you can go out for a late evening bite, and then we'll have a morning fishery on Saturday. We'll have a walleye seminar Saturday afternoon about 1 o'clock. Gives you that evening opportunity once again. And if you want to stay Saturday night, you can get up, go fishing Sunday morning before you pack up and head home. So it's worth it to come over, spend 3 or 4 days. 3 nights is what I kind of align this for. And here's the deal. Staying in Electric City on Banks Lake, the Sky Deck Motel has 35 rooms currently. They'll probably fill up pretty fast, so you better call and make your reservation. Normally, $135 a night. For our group, $85 a night.
Wow.
For a hotel room, $85 a night. Come join us for at least a couple nights. You can't almost not afford to. And or if you want to camp, if you want a tent camp or RV hookup, doesn't matter. Right along the sunny shores of Banks Lake, $30 a night for campsite.
Oh, awesome.
So you're at $30 a night for campsite or $85 for a hotel room. Free seminars, kokanee and triploid and walleye. Max Lure team. We'll have some free rods to give away. We'll have free gear. Even the guys over there at Coulee Playland are going to throw some stuff in for us on the raffle. So you want to contact Sky Deck Motel, and you can simply Google that, or go to our Facebook page. I put up all the information, contact information, names of folks and phone numbers, okay? Sky Deck Motel or the Coulee Playland Campground. They're both right there. They're butted up basically to each other. We got a big gazebo there that we're going to host the seminars in. It's just an invite, meet and greet. Come on out, enjoy some fishing, enjoy some sunshine, bring the family. Very low key. Doesn't cost you anything but the expense of your accommodations and gas and food and whatever else. We're not charging anything for this. We just want people to come join, figure out how to fish some of those lakes on the east side and take advantage of it.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to diversify our fisheries at this point for us West Siders.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we will talk about this almost every week until we have it, till we get to that point. So come and join us. Hey, last week we had Jason Hummel back in here. We were talking about the rally, More Fish for Everyone, that's going to take place in April. That is now postponed until sometime in June, depending on the direction COVID-19 takes us. But he had no choice but to temporarily cancel that group event. Do your due diligence. Keep the rally going online. Keep the social media content alive. Interact with folks. Stay educated. Be on top of this North of Falcon process. You know, it's nice to see that we landed at $27 million for WDFW. They're funded through June of 2021. So you folks should be pretty excited about that. That's kind of one of the, you know, gripes that we can take back off the table now because legislators came through. I want to back up and think that some of that was due to the secondary move of them pulling back on their GILNet reform flip type deal in Columbia that we've been through multiple times. So the benefit of that is, hey, we have money for WDFW and programs are going to continue. So, but moving forward, they still need to hear from us. They still need to hear from us as a collective voice, albeit recreational, tribal, and commercial coming together united, all for a common goal in building and rebuilding our fisheries. So more information on that to come. Go to Washington State Fishing if you're a group member there. If not, jump on there and ask to join. Lots of good content there on a weekly basis, and those guys keep you up to date. So with that, holy smokes, Martin, we're pretty much on time.
Yeah, we're like a little early.
Did you want to add anything? Because I can't just bounce out of here without running over. That wouldn't be normal.
Right. Nope, I think we got everything covered.
Okay, then with that, we will jump out for a quick break. We come back. Shane Anderson, North Fork Studios, been around for quite some time. Northwest boy, grew up right here, Summit Lake. Chehalis, A Watershed Moment is his documentary that's going to be premiering soon. We'll get into all the nuts and bolts and dates and times and locations when we get him in here. But lots of information coming about this Chehalis Basin Dam Proposal, those that are for it, those that are against it, and where ultimately it lands in the realm of conservation and fish recovery and how detrimental in some aspects is.
Can't wait for this conversation.
Yep. Okay, so don't go anywhere. We'll jump out for a quick break. Shane Anderson will join us when we come back right here on FHM.
Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Whether you are looking for a small skiff to fish the Sound or rivers or a huge offshore tuna machine, Defiance Marine has it. At Defiance Marine, be sure to power your boat with a Honda outboard package. Take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty on your Honda outboards. Our service department is always here to help and serve you as the customer. Did you know Defiance Marine has boat financing experts to help get you the best term rates on your new boat purchase? If you need financing for that new boat, call us today. We guarantee the best price, best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine also carries all the gear that you will need. Everything from auxiliary kicker motors to fishing tackle and bait. Defiance Marine has certified technicians that are top-notch at their job. Some of the best in the Pacific Northwest at evaluating your boat issues and problems. Stop in today or give us a call for all your needs at Defiance Marine.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
What if there was a smarter way to search for your new home? Introducing the Better Homes and Gardens real estate website and mobile app. This revolutionary new search tool puts your needs first. Narrow your search to what matters most to your family, like school data, school districts, and even walk scores. Get easy access to your local affiliated agent, as well as unique and local insights about neighborhoods and properties directly within the app. With synced and saved preferences, you'll always pick up wherever you left off. Get your smarter search started today with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
Hey, welcome back, Fish on Northwest of White Eagle and Kelly Barnum, and our in-studio guest, Shane Anderson. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's so great to be here.
It's been a few years.
It has been a few years, and you're right down from where I grew up, about 500 yards.
Yeah, your folks literally live right down the street.
Yep.
That's so funny. And you got a cabin right down here on the lake, so... And yeah, it's funny, Barnum, at dinner, he's like, so how's the kokanee fishing doing out here? I'm like, pretty good. Well, you know, he's like, yeah, I'll come jump in the boat. So he probably showed me a thing or two.
Yeah, probably.
Here, right, historically. So, owner and creator of North Fork Studios. How long you been on this little venture? Quite some time.
Yeah, I moved back to Olympia 2012.
Yeah.
I was down in California for about 15 years, doing my thing down there, studied fisheries biology at Humboldt State University.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I decided, you know, to merge the science and the film.
Yeah.
And
you do a pretty amazing job, I got to say. I mean, I'm no critic, but I just really appreciate your work. It's extremely educational, well done. The videography and the interviews and the persons that you get to speak on behalf of whatever project you're working on. I mean, your previous projects have always been you know, eye-catching and successful. I've been to a few of your premieres. You have some of your work on PBS now?
Yep, been working a lot with them. River's Last Chance was picked up all across the West Coast, and this Chehalis Watershed Moment will be airing on PBS probably in May or June here locally in Washington. So.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Chehalis Watershed Moment is the current project that you started when?
Whew. Well, probably about 2 years ago, full on year and a half of hardcore production. And, you know, it was an interesting story because a bunch of people have been hitting me up over the last 5 years, like, when are you going to do something on this Chehalis Dam Proposal? And I just I was so busy working on these other projects. I was like, okay, I'll do a little short advocacy video about the, you know, the effects on fisheries. Yeah. And the more I dove into it, it evolved into an hour-long feature film. And a year and a half later,
this story cannot be told in 9 or 12 minutes.
Absolutely not, because it's you know, it's not just a story about a dam. It's a story about a watershed facing some impacts we know are coming in the future. Yep. They're definitely going to come, and you know, trying to balance this new reality we have of you know, these increased floods and increased droughts, which are going to affect fish and wildlife and communities. Yep. So it is a real important conversation to be having.
A lot of players involved, lots of folks on both sides of the fence, obviously, anytime, and I guess we should say that, or make it known that this is not the first time this particular topic has been on the table. This ideology of putting a dam on the Chehalis, albeit different locations over the years, has been waged and battled 5 or 6 times, I believe, right? At this point. So, you know, credit to you for taking this on, because it's through works like this that the majority gets educated. Because a lot of this stuff just goes on in meetings behind closed doors, and you know, there's persons that show up and sit at the table, pound their fist, puff their chest, and either try to get, you know, whichever side they're trying to maneuver. But it's this type of educational work that is so important to get people to truly understand what's going on here at the end of the day.
Yeah, environmental impact statement right here. You know, it's wading through 2,000 pages of documents.
And that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, as a layman, I mean, you see the posts on Facebook, you see them all the time, you know, support the dam, don't support the dam. But as a layman, it's like, man, I don't have time to sit down and dig into this to see what side of the fence I sit on here. So it's like, to have other people doing it and putting out the information where you can gather it quickly is huge asset.
Well, especially if it's a non-biased approach.
Exactly.
Is, you know, and Shane does a really good job showing both sides. Right. Truly, I mean, I watched the uncut that you sent me, and I'm like, wow, this is really fair and balanced. And you have to sit back now and make the decision on your own of which side you think is going to be most impactful, or what's the payoff, and ultimately at the end of it, who benefits and who loses, right? So well done in that regard. So to give folks an idea what we're talking about, Shane has about a little over 3-minute promo short sizzle here that we're going to watch, and then we'll jump back in here in studio and continue with more with Shane Anderson.
It is not looking good for us today.
Over the last several decades, the problems have accelerated here in our basin.
Our weather has changed dramatically.
The entire watershed is fragile and very vulnerable. There are very real impacts of climate change.
The types of changes we're talking about for rivers are really dramatic.
There has been 2 big fish kills since the 2007 storm from low flows, high temperature.
In most years, the Chehalis River is the largest producer of salmon and steelhead within Washington state.
The spring Chinook run has declined. We could be facing a situation where it's going extinct.
The last 30 years have seen 5 of the most significant floods on record.
Flooding is the #1 cost to the federal government in disasters.
At some point, you need to just go, okay, what are we going to do about it?
We can't handle it even with levees, and that's why we need a dam.
The west end of the dam will be tucked against that hill just off my property line.
And the proposal is that it be used for only the 10-year flood.
This is something that will open up and stay open. It is also potentially an expandable version.
There's people that just don't want dams to not want dams, but most of them don't live here.
The stance of the Chehalis tribe today is that we disagree with the solution of a dam or any kind of retention project in the headwaters.
We're hoping that the dam won't be built here.
I have concerns about the indirect effects of such a large structure on the river and how that will affect our cultural resources.
There's a lot of native fish species up there that would be directly affected negatively by a dam up there.
I think it's important to know what the consequences of doing that are. As awful as the floods have been, it has definitely spurred a massive movement in data collection.
If we're really going to make a difference for all the communities in an equitable way, we have to look basin-wide, which goes beyond the scope of what a dam would do.
With climate change, as a farmer, we feel all we have is adaptation. I think it does have to be a holistic approach.
There's lots that can be done in thinking about how to sort of reconceive how we're managing a watershed.
Do you just move entire communities out of harm's way, or do you build infrastructure?
And this process has involved people from very different points of view trying to mutually address and solve 2 problems at once.
And it's a balancing act, and not everyone's going to be happy about what's done.
The longer we wait, the harder this problem's going to get.
So every decision that's made in the short, near, and long term is very critical.
All right, welcome back in studio. Hopefully you took in a little bit of what's being said there, and that's just on a microcosm scale right there. I mean, you got an hour-long project here you're going to premiere, which the amount of information that I gathered out of that thing it just blew me away. Blew me away.
Yeah, these films are a journey. You invest in them. It takes 2 years of your life, and it's like going to graduate school on each particular topic. Yeah, and I wanted this film to live on, beyond the dam conversation. So I kind of tried to make it more about the Chehalis watershed, the history. How did we get to an area that our river systems are less resilient? How did we get to a time when our spring Chinook are facing extinction, where our fisheries are closing? There's a whole series of events that got us to this, and it's not one thing or another. There's no silver bullet. It's the cumulative impact of all these different things. Yep. And so I hope that through that journey of my learning and understanding, people can get a better understanding.
Let's back up to the time in history like we were kind of talking at dinner, about that 1860, 1870 to 1980 transition where early on, the amount of logging that was going on, especially let's say specifically to this basin area that we're talking about, down to logging, the type of logging they did, how there was no mind thought at all of what the destruction they were doing to the environment with the way they would blast and send those tremendous rafts of logs down that river, cascading and destroying everything in its path on out to Grays Harbor. Couple that with the abundance of commercial harvest that was going on simultaneously. You know, very similar to what was going on in the Columbia at that time. I mean, commercial fishing industry was just full on tilt. And the amount of fish that were coming into that Chehalis at that time, talk a little bit about the goals at that time. Clearing all the logs to create farmland and settlers. And then, of course, the impact the logging industry had at that time and what it did and how they used those rivers to their advantage.
Yeah, so I mean the very first thing the settlers did when they moved in was they cleared all the rivers out of their woody debris because there was no roads. The river was the highway.
Right.
And that wood is integral for, like, I mean, salmon and wood go hand in hand.
Right.
It creates the habitat. It slows the river down. It creates side channels. All the geomorphology is because of log jams. You know, you can't have healthy salmon populations without log jams.
Yep.
So the first thing was they removed that. But, you know, the most amazing kind of statistic that I came across was this old map of all the splash dams in the basin, which are the dams that log crib dams they created for transporting the logs downstream. So they would back up the pool and send this cascade of torrent of logs and debris down to the mills, you know, all throughout the basin.
Right.
I counted 90 on this map.
On the Chehalis?
Yeah, which cut off 60% of salmon habitat at one time, up until the 1950s. This is...
Yeah, so by the 1900s, I mean, they had destroyed a high percentage of that salmon habitat already.
Right. Yeah, and there's a theory, you know, why do we see more spring Chinook in like the Newaukum and the Skookumchuck than the upper Chehalis right now? And I've been talking a lot to the geneticists doing the studies, and one of the theories is there were so many splash dams in the upper Chehalis around PL that Springer population was almost extirpated back at the turn of the century, and then they recolonized after those splash dams were out. So you know, it's really interesting to see some of those legacy effects. You know, I mean, Grays Harbor was the timber capital of the world. I have the one old photo I found where they got the billionth board foot by 1924.
Which is in your film.
Yeah.
I saw that, 1924 billionth board foot. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Of course, the trees were massive.
Yeah. Massive trees, yeah.
The amount of dynamite used, you know, to blow these dams and get that wood floating down the river, and the amount of earth that it would undo, and river banks it would destroy, and the amount of mud and sediment and everything else that would wash down the river simultaneously with millions of feet of wood, you know, going all at the same time. I mean, it's
crazy.
It's unbelievable. And that's why, as we were speaking earlier, you know, in our lifetime, we cannot undo or recover fast enough the destruction that was even done, say, from 1870 to 1920. You know, we just don't have that ability to recover that stuff, although with engineering and modern technology and some of the things they know now, as far as, and we'll get into it later, but you know, there are definitely some things being accomplished that are pretty impressive, right? So, let's talk about, they were also at that time just clearing everything out, and there wasn't any mindset of replanting, right?
Yeah, it was...
So how important is shade when we talk about habitat recovery, restructure, wood, and shade on these rivers and in temperature?
Well, the Chehalis is a rain-fed system, so it's especially sensitive to shade, and it's predominantly in private lands that have been, you know, severely, the habitat's been degraded. I think it's like 87% of the Chehalis Basin habitat has been degraded over the last 150 years.
Yep.
And yeah, a big part of that's trees, and the Chehalis gets really warm, and the only thing to cool down water is shade and big trees.
Yeah.
And not all parts of a watershed are created equal. There's these thermal refuges throughout the basin, little pockets and creeks or the river. That's where like the spring Chinook hold or the steelhead and the juvenile fish. So really identifying where those areas are in the watershed, which WDFW has identified. They've been doing these amazing thermalscape models.
There was just an article written from our buddies over there at Northwest Sportsman Magazine that was focused on identifying those cooler areas along the shorelines of the Columbia River and the tributaries that are dumping in, and the significant temperature difference in those areas that are resting areas and holding areas for fish, and they're recognizing those as, hey, these maybe have to be recognized as a no fish zone because the fish stack up there and guys can just waylay on them, right? So fish naturally want to do what they want to do, and that's just kind of their part of their progress. They got to have a rest too, and they got to seek out that cooler water. And now science has led us to believe that, hey, maybe it's not such a good idea to have, we need boundaries, right? So kind of speaking on what your point out here is that it's now known science that's led us to understand that.
Yeah, and the concept of sanctuaries is so important for future management. We actually just got the first salmon sanctuary, but the group I work with, Pacific Rivers, started this campaign down in Oregon on Steamboat Creek in the North Umpqua to protect the thermal steelhead refuge down there, because it is so unique. And if we can kind of replicate that model across the West Coast to protect these just little areas, little sub-watersheds, very important.
For a lot of folks that don't know, I mean, we already have 2 dams that have been long-standing within this basin. We have the Upper Wainuchi and we have the Skookumchuck. And interestingly enough, the power plant that was built and the reason for the dam on the Skookumchuck was for that power plant is now shut down. Right?
We're going to have a deadbeat dam by the end of the year. So there's a big question, like the irony of the situation is when you look at the thermalscapes, the coldest water is above the proposed dam site, above the Skookumchuck Dam, and above the Wainuchi Dam. Those are the refuges for the future. If you look at the 2080 temperature models. So we need to really start thinking about.
To clarify, that is looked upon as, hey, we got to find a way to get the fish up there, because by 2060, 2080, they're going to need those cooler waters to make it to survive and spawn in good habitat. And they destroyed how many miles of good, natural, really pristine spawning grounds on that Upper Wainuchi when they put that dam in. And until I watched your film, I had no idea that we actually did have springers. It makes sense now, and I probably should have thought about it before, but the fact we had springers on the Upper Wainuchi. And those disappeared along with the dam when the dam came in, right? Much like, we want to keep putting dam. It's ironic that in some watersheds we're talking about removing dams, and in some major watersheds we're talking about removing dams to the tune of millions upon millions of dollars. And yet here we sit. Also, on the other side, folks are talking about putting some more dams back in to some pristine natural habitat that needs to be left alone. So we won't go into that too deep. But okay, good opening segment. Kind of hopefully you guys are kind of wrapping your head around our discussion tonight. It is about the dam proposal on the Chehalis Basin, and if you're on the bottom end of that thing and have been subjected to a number of floods, and your family over history and time has been subjected to floods and the billions of dollars that have been lost, you're probably one who's in favor of the dam. But if you're not subjected to that type of environmental impact and are pro-conservation and want to see our fisheries recover in Washington State, you probably want nothing to do with the dam. So I know where I lie, and I don't want to make any enemies in that regard. But there's a lot of things to discuss here, and we got a couple more segments with Shane to really pull back the layers on this thing, because there are many, and we want to make sure you folks leave here tonight understanding exactly what's involved in this project, this proposal, and what the future holds, right? So we're going to get to that. We're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back. We are going to be in the kitchen, Barnum, with those fresh clams this week. We had an opportunity with Chef in the house to go ahead and cook them up. I know a lot of you know how to fry clams. He has a great recipe for fried clams and a spicy mayo that is second to none, and one that you want to add to your repertoire when you cook clams next time, because it is freaking amazing. So don't go anywhere. Stick through the commercial break. We come back. Chef Kelly and Sheri in the kitchen. Fried clams, spicy mayo, right here on FHN. Allied boats are built by West Coast fishermen for West Coast fishermen. Deep V 21-degree dead rise at the transom guarantees a smooth ride no matter the conditions. Allied offers all of our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Allied boats range from 19 to 32 foot in length, so no matter what type of heavy gauge boat you are looking for, we have it for you. All of our Corsair 21 foot and larger designs come standard with reverse chine that is welded inside and out with no extrusions below the waterline, so that you will never have to worry about corrosion problems down the road. Get out on the water today in a boat that you can trust and enjoy with Allied Boats. Contact us at Allied Boats today to learn much more about our incredible fishing machines.
Everyone, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We're finally back in the kitchen, Chef.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duck season finally is over. Jesus, it was like endless.
Yes, it took us forever to get back here, and we're so glad that we are back.
Yep.
And the first recipe we're going to do is razor clams.
Razor clams.
That Dwayne went out and got last night.
Yes.
Yep.
Look at these big, beautiful things.
They are big.
Yeah, this is what we call, I call the bodies. And then there's the neck part, or also we call diggers too. So I love diggers, but I love to actually save them for my clam chowder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna make fried razor clams with a spicy Asian mayo. So first we're gonna
Spicy Asian mayo.
Yes. Say that 3 times fast.
No, thank you.
Okay. So we're gonna work on our sauce first. And then we're gonna bread up and then fry up.
All right.
Okay, so we got 3 egg yolks in here. To this, we're gonna add some spicy brown mustard, or you can use Dijon. I'm gonna add about a good fat tablespoon. Okay. A tablespoon of soy. I like it kind of spicy, so we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of sambal. If you're not familiar with Sheri's new favorite product now is sambal.
Get familiar with it.
Yes.
It's really good.
So if you're not familiar with this one, this particular brand is actually the same makers who makes sriracha. And the only difference is that it's not as pureed and fine and smooth. It's more chunky, has more like the whole chilies in it.
Okay.
And it's not sweet.
No, it's not.
So
No.
it's a little different than sriracha, even though it's made by the same people.
So good.
Right? About a tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, sesame oil. Be careful with that because that is very strong. That's about 2 teaspoons.
And that was sesame oil?
Yeah, that's sesame oil.
Okay.
And 1 tablespoon of lime juice.
Okay.
Okay. About a tablespoon, maybe we'll call it 2 cloves of garlic.
Okay.
Okay, and a teaspoon of ginger. Ginger is very strong. You can always add more.
Okay.
So go easy. Okay, so this is a dump and go, so we're ready to go.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll just...
All the kitties in the pool?
All the kitties in the pool. I don't care if you can swim or not. Okay.
Okay.
Make that disappear from me. Okay. So all we're going to add to this is a cup of oil. And I like corn oil. You can use whatever oil you want. Just don't use extra virgin straight up because it's just too heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A whole cup.
Whole cup. So this is one of those, just add it slowly.
Blends it.
If you add it too fast, it's going to break.
Does that like separate?
Yeah.
Basically?
Yeah.
Can take all this stuff away from you.
Yes, please. Booyah. How long was that?
45 seconds.
That's right. I told you. It's fast. See, it's a beautiful texture to it. It's nice and thick. But not too thick because actually if it comes to a point where it's too thick, just add a little bit of water and then you can get to the consistency that you want.
Okay. How about I get this out for you?
Well, that's bomb.
Is it good?
Oh my God, yeah. That'll work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the blade will bind. That's what's going on. Okay, so now let's talk about our breading procedure for our clamp. So we have half and half of regular flour and corn flour. This is corn flour here. I've used it before. It's kind of a really fine sandy texture.
Okay.
It's not as coarse as cornmeal. Okay.
Oh,
so I like to also take my clams and pre-season them and then dip them in here, because if you're trying to season on the outside of it, you'll find that the salt doesn't really stick very well, and so seasoning here at this point is a better process, and you also control everything a little bit better too. I can take care of that.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll show you one, and you see I already breaded a few of them. Shake off the excess.
Yep.
Our oil's already hot, ready to go.
Sure is.
And make sure you press it in there good, because especially with panko, it's very coarse. You can see the texture on it's very big. And so what will happen is that the spaces don't get filled up too well. That's why some people will use half breadcrumbs, half panko.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so we're ready to fry.
Fry them up. Sounds good to me.
All right, take care of that. Get rid of that. Okay, now don't walk away from these guys, okay?
Yeah, you turned your back to them.
Okay, we're just looking for a light golden brown.
Wow, those look great. Those are really big, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, they're monstrous. Hopefully I can...
Didn't take them long to get them either.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get done in time today and go clamming.
Woo!
And then you can say that you got something.
Oh my God, that's it. I quit. I'm out.
You quit? Shoot. I take it back.
Uh-huh, too late. Okay, nice and golden brown. Don't take these like to a dark golden brown, because it's one of those, you're more cooking to get it cooked than it is to get more for color, because these things, when these things get rubbery, they get pretty rubbery.
Okay, so tough.
Okay,
Yeah.
so probably next time, for this next batch, I'll probably crank it up to probably 2 more notches, just to make sure it gets nice and
faster
fry. Cook.
Okay.
Okay, we're done.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to set this aside. Alrighty. So we're going to make a little base with our mixed greens here.
Oh, these look so good.
Don't be trying to take my clams over there, okay?
I know.
Mm-hmm. I'm watching you.
Wow.
That. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, this guy's trying to invade this other guy's territory. Oh, yeah. We'll do 4.
Okay.
Okay. Have a little garnish with a chili pepper. Our lime wedge right there. Maybe a little extra chilies on top. A little bit of chopped cilantro. And boom.
And boom.
And boom. There you go. And Bob's your uncle.
Yeah. And while I dig into these.
Oh my God.
I wasn't holding on to that forever.
Sure.
Okay. So while we dig into these, we're going to go ahead and throw it back to you guys in the studio.
The spicy Asian mayo looks awesome.
That looks so good.
We ate every single one of those and cooked up more.
Why wouldn't you?
Huh?
Why wouldn't you?
It was unbelievable. I mean, fresh, non-frozen, fresh clams right out of the ocean, and bring them in here, and chef fries them up and then makes that spicy mayo. You got to make the spicy mayo. I'm telling you, it was nothing you can find in the grocery store, and it was very easy to make. So hopefully you guys take that recipe. I'll go ahead and repost that up later on as a standalone, and you can watch it and take notes and give it a go. Shane, you're going to want to jump all over that thing. So, Barnum, before we jump out for break, let's talk a little weather. Hey,
let's do it.
We didn't mention at the beginning of the show, but we have a LINGCOD opener. Well, we kind of mentioned it because we're going to do a how-to. We got a LINGCOD opener in the oceans coming up here this Saturday. Be nice if we got weather conditions to get out and get some LINGCOD.
That's funny. So kind of, as you guys have heard, that Snowmageddon's coming back this weekend, right? They haven't really covered it on the news because of the coronavirus stuff, but there is a chance of snow in the forecast.
It's still a little nipply out there.
Yes.
A little brisk in the air.
Here is Saturday, this line right here. This is our precipitation, and then this is our forecasted max temperatures, and you can kind of see, obviously, as the evening goes along the coast, I think we're going to be okay on this quote-unquote snow event. Looks like temperatures are going to be in the 40s. As we go into the overnight hours Saturday, though, we're going to drop down into the 30s and 20s, it's looking like, even along the coast. And this is our snow level right here Saturday. And as you can see, black is sea level, and the entire region almost is black. So, I mean, we do definitely have a chance
That's not the corona map?
No, that's not. No, that's...
I'm confused. Okay.
Same.
Yeah. Same coverage.
Same. So I wanted to kind of show that. Sunday, it looks like the weather starts to kind of come out, but temperatures stay cold. So, but Monday going into next week, it looks like next week's going to be another dry, fairly warm pattern.
Yeah,
so back to kind of normal temperatures. So that's exciting. Okay. Let's look at this forecast for kind of Marine Area 2 out off of Westport's what I pulled up for this LINGCOD opener. Saturday, east wind 15 to 25 knots, wind waves 2 to 4 feet, northwest swell 5 feet at 10 seconds. Sunday doesn't look a whole lot better, 15 to 25 knots, becoming north 15 to 15, or 5 to 15 knots. Wind waves will be 2 to 4 feet. They will subside, but the swell will remain 5 feet at 11 seconds. Now, the swell isn't extremely bad, but remember, your combined wave is your wind wave on top of the swell. So, again, you're looking at 2 to 4 feet of wind wave on top of a 5-foot swell. So, you're looking at a combined sea of 7 to 9 feet. So, Saturday and Sunday, not going to be the best day for the small boats. I'm sure the charter boats will still brave it and cause a lot of pukers, but not the best day. The reason you see that swell kind of down, which we talked about a lot last spring, is this weekend we're going into those smaller tide series where you're going from a low water event that's a 1/10 to a high water that's a 7/7. So you're only getting 6-7 feet of water movement. That helps slow that current and keep that swell down. So, I mean, if this was happening on a big minus tide weekend where we were talking about the minus 2 foot, you would probably see that swell up in the 9 to 10 foot range. So that's what's making this almost even a little bit doable this weekend, probably for the charter fleet. And I figured I'd throw up here. Here is what we're talking about with this LINGCOD opener. For you guys that don't know, the second Saturday in March, it opens up. Your daily limit is 9 bottom fish, of which basically 2 can be LINGCOD. There is no size limit on LINGCOD, but remember that you cannot fish seaward of the 30 fathom line. So you'll have to look at that map and kind of figure out where that 30 fathom.
Yeah, we're not going deep water.
No deep water lanes.
Water lane, right?
Yep. Yeah. And then your LINGCOD or your rockfish are the same way. No minimum size, daily limit 7, no yellow eye. And then remember to have your descender on board. Yes, it is illegal to fish bottom fish without your descender on board ready to be used. Yeah, so those, and also, you know, always check your local waters and make sure that those rules apply in your local waters. That was Marine Area 2. Yep. You know, there's going to be lots of marine areas opening up, so make sure you hop in that game pamphlet and make sure that you're following the rules in your area.
Yep, and it's a good starter kit. Get out and get those early smaller LINGCOD and get you ready when we move towards that halibut and deep water openers.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. The LINGCOD population is outstanding.
Just unbelievable.
And there should be plenty of fish to be caught over the next 6, 7, 8 months.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. All the way to October 31st. So.
Yeah.
And we'll break it down later on. You know, Bait Lab, I'm going to give you a few techniques and tips, tricks, whatever, to go out there and find those LINGCOD. Whether you're a soft plastic jig guy or, you know, a pipe jig or bait or whatever. I got a couple of things that I like to do depending who I'm fishing with. But most of it works because they're kind of an aggressive fish, if you didn't know.
They're so fun.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. You ever tried one on the fly?
No.
Oh, I got into that a couple years ago. That was pretty fun.
That sounds like a challenge. Yeah, would like to. That would be awesome. All right, we'll jump out for a quick break. We come back, more with Shane Anderson right here in studio on FHN. A Northwest favorite for almost 40 years, Arima boats are manufactured with pride right here in Bremerton, Washington. Arima Boats offers all of our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. With literally thousands of Arima boats on the water throughout the Pacific Northwest, Arima boats are a proven hull design that offers incredible fuel economy and all of the amenities that a serious angler is looking for. All Arima boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why we back our boats with a lifetime warranty. All of our Arima boats are designed to maximize deck space while also providing ample seating. Contact us today at Arima Boats for all your boating needs and let us help you get out on the water. Hey, we're back in studio with Shane Anderson. I almost forgot what we were going to talk about because we got a break going on about halibut and deep water lings and black cod.
Makes you want to get on the ocean.
Jig versus spreader bar weight and the old Summit Lake trout. Oh man, and kokanee. Don't be offended when we say we use kokanee for halibut and lingcod bait, because them small ones are too much work to fillet out. You might as well just cure them up and use them for bait.
Are we going to start that argument in the threads? Can't use trout, can't use trout.
Oh yeah, let's get it going right now, even before we get into halibut season. I'm telling you right now, I'll bet somebody $100. If you want to throw it down, you can use sand dabs.
Yep.
You can catch them in same water, and you can fish them live, right?
Yep.
You can use trout and kokanee, but you cannot use them as live bait.
Right, they have to be dead.
Yeah, just like herring, right?
Yes.
So there are parameters, and I'm here to tell you both work very well.
Yep.
Sand dabs work great, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, but also, some folks, Barnum, and you've fished them for years, but some will say, I never use dead bait for lingcod, it doesn't work.
I use herring a lot.
I'm like,
a lot.
You can spend a ton of money on a horse herring, or wait till springtime, lakes open up, go get yourself a bunch of 10 to 12 inch rainbows and or 11 inch kokanee, and lingcod and halibut absolutely love them. So they work great, but we'll get more into that as the season progresses, and I will convert some of you non-bait fishermen to use a bait for your ambush style fish. Okay, enough on that, Shane. Speaking of fish, let's kind of go down a little bit of a history. You got so much information in your head and documentation in front of you, but let's talk about the historic fish runs on the Chehalis and truly where some of those runs lie now. You've mentioned, there's great concern for the spring Chinook, and for good reason. Let's talk a little bit about that. We just experienced an early closure on our wild steelhead. Let's talk about, for folks that really don't understand, how pristine that wild steelhead run is, that gets above into that upper spawning natural habitat that would be clearly still above the dam, correct? That we would be cutting off, essentially, we put the dam in there. Let's talk about those fish.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, to start, the Chehalis is the largest watershed left on the entire West Coast that's not listed under the Endangered Species Act. So it's got a tremendous amount of opportunity to rebound runs and to do some restoration. So up in that upper basin, the state of Washington started a biology program looking into the fish species up there as soon as the dam got off the ground about 7 years ago. There was virtually nothing really known about that upper population. And what they found was it was this incredible stronghold for wild steelhead that actually had its own unique genetic signature. So these upper Chehalis fish are different than the Newaukum fish or Skookumchuck or Wainuchi or Satsup or whatever, any of their tributaries. And it's an incredibly important habitat because it's 3% of the habitat in the entire basin is producing 15.7% of the wild steelhead.
So that exclusive water, that upper Chehalis watershed, primal natural habitat spawning ground for these wild steelhead, that genetic strain that is isolated to that particular stretch of water, 3% of the habitat rears 15% of that wild fish run, as we know it on the Chehalis right now, which is a couple thousand fish.
Yeah, in a good year.
On a good year.
Yeah.
And we would let's put a dam there and cut that off, and the fall off rate of those fish continuing to recycle and make it and survive. What's the fall off percentage on that? There's got to be a downturn.
In the first 5 years of dam construction, the ED, there's two different models. They range from 51% to 54% reduction just in the first 5 years.
So roughly 10% a year.
Right.
Because there's plans, during dam construction to put a tunnel 1,300 feet through the adjacent mountain to reroute the river.
So they could build a dam.
Yeah. And one of the real big concerns isn't even with the structure itself, it's with the reservoir footprint behind it. Because the dam is what they call a run-of-a-river dam. It would only be used during high floods for what they consider a 10-year event, which happens about every 7 to 8 years. Those aren't catastrophic. 100-year-plus event are the big catastrophic ones.
Yeah.
So this would actually be used, quite often in not really catastrophic conditions. And the clearing of that reservoir footprint, basically they would take every tree, dug fir down there into the riparian area. And in the environmental impact statement, it says it could raise the water temperatures by up to 6 to 9 degrees.
So we're stripping that 6 to 7 mile river corridor, all hillsides around it, almost 640 acres. Remove all the trees, because when we get a high water event, they hold the water back to prevent the flooding down below. And then it's a time release of water over time that it can absorb and run down the river without flooding out the communities, right? But in doing so, they have to log all that out of there so that when they raise that water up and hold that water in what now is considered a reservoir,
right?
They do away with, like you're saying, all the trees and everything, which just basically is like you have a desert and you have a creek running through it, and over the course of time, it's going to raise the water temperature up there by 6 to 8 degrees over cumulative years.
Yep, and that area within the reservoir footprint isn't just important for steelhead. It's also, one of the only places spring Chinook are in the basin. It's an important fall Chinook and coho.
Yeah.
And, those floods kind of happen in November to February, and guess what happens there? The eggs are in the gravel then.
Yeah.
So you can kind of count on, if a flood does happen, you're throwing away that population of fish.
Yeah.
For that
entire year.
That year
entire
class.
life cycle, yeah.
Right.
So we lose a life cycle out of any of those fish that would be in that footprint of November to February. March,
and those are what we call direct effects. There's also the indirect effects.
Such as,
like I was saying, the water temperature, but also sedimentation. So if you clear the landscape and you get even not a catastrophic rain event, think about all that sediment coming off the stripped hillsides. You're going to have a muddy river for a lot of days in the wintertime, and smolts have a really hard time with high sediment loads.
Yeah.
They get in their gills, and it can have major effects.
The Puyallup is an example of a river that carries a lot of sediment.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of that stems from the amount of logging that went on in the 70s and 80s, right? And we still haven't got a lot of the trees grown back, and there's no prevention in washing a lot of that stuff down the hills and stuff even today, and the river continues to run dirty. And when I was growing up, it tended to run clean more months out of the year than filthy, and it's been opposite of that for as long as I can remember now. It's completely flipped. So that happens during snowmelt, it happens during high spring runoff, and it happens during storms in the winter. All of that lends to massive amounts of silt being washed into the river.
Right.
And if all the trees are stripped off the hillside, that's just all that.
Yeah, nothing to retain
just
it.
Keeps washing it. There's nothing to hold it back, right?
Right.
So the fish runs have declined in some regards, according to your documentary, depending on species, 63 to 93% as it is today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we've already destroyed a certain species, I would assume it's the spring Chinook, upwards of 93%, you put a dam in there, you pretty much kiss it goodbye.
Right.
If they even make it that long before we put the dam in. I mean, those fish are on the brink of extinction, if I'm not mistaken.
The upper Chehalis population for sure would be gone. There'd still be some in the Skookumchuck and Wainuku, or the Nuwaukum, but that upper population, and it's one of those questions, right? There's an opportunity to restore that upper population and to try to do what we can to bring back those, because we've just found out the spring Chinook they just found the gene, the run timing gene, which is called GREB1L, which is the allele that separates a fall run from a spring run. It's an ancient gene developed over millions of years. So once that is gone, that is gone. There's nothing. There's no hatchery that's going to bring it back. There's nothing. It's gone.
So to your point earlier, one thing that this project has bolstered is the amount of research that's gone on, and truly the genetic patterning that they've established on a number of fish runs in this basin. Talk a little bit about this crossover they've discovered amongst the fall run Chinook and the spring Chinook.
Yeah, so it's sort of really interesting what's happening. The Chehalis is a really unique system to have spring Chinook, and there's this overlap in timing where the falls and the springs essentially are showing up at the same time. We don't know if historically there was barriers that separated them, like in most river systems. Right. There's a waterfall or a velocity barrier. So basically what's happening right now is that they're interbreeding with each other and creating what are called heterozygotes, which are the combination of a fall and a spring fish.
Heterozygotes.
Yeah. And, the fall fish are threatening to replace the spring run.
Interesting.
So it's not just a human effect. I mean, it's this whole natural effect that's going on as well that we have no control over unless we figure out a way to separate the species.
In my guesstimation, and obviously I'm not a scientist, I just play one every week here on Thursday, but the biggest losers in this entire project are the fish of all strains and species that inhabit the Chehalis Basin.
Yeah, like I said, last unlisted population, you know, dealing with the ocean conditions right now and seeing the downturn in some of the escapements for steelhead, recent closure. You know, it's fair to say that it could be what pushes the Chehalis Basin to an ESA listing. And we can just look at Puget Sound to as far as sportsmen to see what happens when you have an ESA listing.
Yeah, exactly. We've been dealing with that up there long enough, and now we want to continue to push that out on other basins within the state. Not a good plan. As you're aware, we had David Trout in here last week. He's been very active on the board tonight. I appreciate that, David. Your insight is much appreciated. He made a good point here earlier to say, show me one place where a dam has been put in and salmon has not been impacted to the negative, right? So, and he's spot on with that. You cannot deny that. You cannot argue that point to say we have this dam functioning and fish runs are better than ever.
Right.
I mean, that has never been said, right? So
nope.
Yeah. So then ultimately, who does benefit? This dam project goes through. They put that thing in. Several years down the road, it's done. It's up and running. Who benefits?
Who benefits? Well, I guess it depends where you are in the watershed. You know, it captures 65,000 acre feet. Basically, the reservoir would be about 7 miles long. The dam's about 300 feet tall, quarter mile long. You know, if you're up in the upper part of the basin, you could see an 8-foot reduction down in the Twin Cities of Chehalis and Centralia. You're seeing a 1.5-foot reduction. Keep in mind, there was places I-5 was covered with 10 feet of water in the 2007 storm. So, and then once you get down and, you know, lower down in the basin, you're talking 6 inches, 3 inches of benefit.
Right.
Sure. But it's also been pointed out that based on the numbers like that 2007 storm, I-5 closed down for 5 days. If you have the dam in place and you duplicate that same exact event, we may only see the I-5 shut down for 1 or 2 days. So really, is that cost of this thing to the tune of $640 to $650 million, and gaining 3 days of commerce ability to go up and down I-5, because truly that's what it is. I mean, all that water's still there, right? I-5 is underwater for 2 days.
Right.
It doesn't matter. That house is underwater for 2 days or 5 days or 3 weeks because it takes longer for that water to get out of there. But, you know, who truly benefits from this thing if at the end of the day we're still going to flood to a point? I'm not sure how you can stand there and get behind this thing and say this is what we need to do. I don't get it.
I mean, the cheapest, easiest thing for the taxpayer is to, you know, get critical infrastructure out of dangerous hazard areas. You know, you can't force people to move though out of a floodplain. It's like a law.
No.
So it's kind of like there's this delicate balance. So we want to do this massive, you know, there's this massive restoration plan also attached to what's called the Chehalis Basin Strategy. And part of that restoration plan will take willing landowners. It's a predominantly private, you know, watershed.
Right.
There's there's not much public land in it. So there's a conundrum, and also the restoration side is like, how do you get the buy-in to do that? How do you get people out of harm's way? What is Plan B? You know, what are other alternatives to protect communities from flooding, which is land use planning, flood-proofing houses.
We're going to get into that final segment of the show. We'll talk about the reestablishment of upper land and water, and you know how to control river and aquatic and all those things that are important. I mean, it's a huge project, but at the end of the day, if you couple that with moving some infrastructure and buildings and things off of that flood zone, you know, move them back a bit or relocate, or interestingly enough, and this isn't, you know, I didn't plan on having this conversation, but it was kind of running around in the news the last couple of days that the current administration is looking at, hey, it's time for you guys to relocate. Here's a bunch of money to do so. Because the government looks at it from cost-benefit analysis. We are tired to the tune of billions upon billions of dollars. It's the most expensive hit the government takes in recovery, secondary to floods. Time to move people out of floodplains and just be done with it, right? And I get it. If you're a farmer and your family has been established there for 150 years, because of all the things we talked about earlier on, settlers came in, just great primal land for farming, obviously, because it's in a river basin. Why wouldn't it be? Very, very nutrient-based soils and all the things that particular environment offered them back in the day with the fishing, the hunting, the farming, establishing a community. And once that starts, you know, they too experienced urban sprawl, correct? They started building, then the cities come in and they build all this up. All the meanwhile, it's within that 100-year floodplain that everybody's like, well, it's only every 100 years, so my grandpa dealt with it, but I won't see it, but, you know, maybe my kids have to deal with it. Well, unfortunately, it's every 4 or 10 or sooner, right? And so at some point, somebody has to cut their losses and go, we can no longer do this. Environment's changing, weather patterns are changing, we don't get cold winters anymore, we get wet, soggy, lots of rain from October to March. The landscape has been stripped, the land can absorb the water, there's nothing to hold back the landslides. You know, we've created this monster.
We have, and it's you know, it's scary looking at the predictions for 2080, the increase of peak flood events too.
Yeah.
And that's one of the really interesting things in the environmental impact statement is they have flood maps for 2080, and there's not much dry land even with the dam. So in that area.
Yeah.
So you know, it seems like the only solution is just to get out of the way of nature and try to restore some of these and have a dual benefit of protecting people from floods and providing fish habitat, I think would be the silver bullet.
Seems like the most sensible thing to do. Cost overall, number of years and restoring, you know, landscape and all that, you may run up against a similar cost to putting a dam in, but for the benefit of moving forward, I think a lot better. If you're relocating folks and reestablishing habitat, trying to put it back to its, you'll never get back to its original state, but you can certainly come close with engineering and understanding and knowing what nature requires. I think there's definitely some benefit there that can't be overlooked. You can't just say, oh, that's insurmountable, we just need to put a dam down, right? So I like the fact that there are persons passionate enough about this to do that research and come to the table with, hey, here is a reasonable option, right? And that's what I'm hearing. That's what I get out of watching your film, is that we do have other options that will make a significant difference if done correctly, right? So good stuff. Gosh, there's so many layers to this thing. It's just mind-boggling. At the end of the day, in my mind, fish are going to lose, and there's very little bit to gain. And you know, I empathize with those families in your feature film, the farmers and the families in those communities and how long they've been there and their heritage and all that. I get it. I mean, I'm not in their shoes and I don't pretend to be, but at the end of the day, at some point, maybe in a generation somewhere, somebody goes, you know what, yeah, it's time for us to get out of here. And I believe even one of the farmers says, well, you know, it's one of those things where you hope your kids will take it on, and if they don't, you know, maybe it's time to sell. So that's kind of what it comes to.
It's a big societal decision, you know.
Yeah.
Are we willing to lose, you know, these fish runs? We got to make the decision, and people need to let their voice be heard, because this is a public process right now.
Right.
And the state's listening.
Yeah.
And every voice matters, no matter what side you're on. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. It's not what I do. But, but you know, I'm just going to provide the information.
It's well, it's very compelling, because you have the Chehalis tribe, you have the Quinault Nation, you have the farmers, you have city executives, you have councilmen and women, you have persons within the the workings of the small cities and townships that are downriver of this place, and everybody puts in their 2 cents. And you listen to this gentleman speak on behalf of the Chehalis tribe, and you're like, there's value there. And you listen to somebody speaking on behalf of the Quinault Nation, and there's value. And you listen to the farmer, and there's value. And and council persons are looking at the bottom line and the money, and everybody has a stake in the game, right? And so there's no easy answer, but I think over time and with public input, which is huge, and this is one of those things where, you know what, they just do what they want. They don't ever listen to anybody. This is one of those that they're going to listen to people before they make a decision. I'm not sure where our current governor lands on this whole thing, if he's pushing for this thing to go through or where he's at.
Nobody does.
Yeah. So I haven't really heard much out of his office or where they stand on this thing, but I think as it moves forward and it gains more public scrutiny, I hope, and that's my hope, is that when folks are done watching your film, they can walk away going, yeah, this is a loser. You know, don't support this idea. That's just me talking. That's not you drawing a line in the sand. That's where I'm at, right? So, okay, we still have a few more things to cover relevant to this. I want to get a little deeper into what it really means to reestablish habitat in the upper watershed. How can we change the landscape to control the river and the direction it flows in high water events? What does it mean to actually talk about possibly moving people off the landscape and letting Mother Nature do her thing periodically and flood that area when it needs to, you know, and how beneficial that is or is not really for fish as well. So a few more things to get into in reference to that, but before we do, we're going to jump out for a break. We come back, we're going to jump into the bait lab. Going to give you the 1, 2, 3 of LINGCOD, as we do have the opener coming up this weekend, Saturday, if you dare get out. This is near shore opportunity. We're not going after deep lings yet, but we have some ideas of what works pretty well in the near shore, and we're going to spool you up with that in the bait lab. And we come back after this break right here on FHN.
Defiance boats are built without any structural wood materials. That is why we back our boats with a lifetime warranty. All of our Defiance boats come standard with large fish boxes that are fully insulated so that you can ice your fish properly all day. Defiance boats feature a 21 to 22 degree dead rise at the transom and a large reverse chine for incredible handling and stability offshore. Defiance boats are foam flotation filled and unsinkable for the ultimate in safety while fishing offshore. Defiance boats feature fuel-efficient hull designs with large fuel tank capacity so that you can have maximum fuel range for making long offshore runs completely safe and affordable. All Defiance boats come standard with self-bailing decks for improved safety while at sea. Defiance Boat offers all our boats with Honda outboard packages so that you can take full advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty from your Honda outboard. Defiance boats for all your boating needs, and let us help you get out on the water.
Hey, welcome back to FHN. We're here in the bait lab with this week's how-to. Going to cover a little bit about lingcod fishing and some options that we have out here on the table. If you're going to get out and chase nearshore lingcod starting Saturday and all the way on through October 31st, we've got a long season ahead of us and plenty of opportunities, so I hope you take advantage of it. Bait lab presentations are brought to you by Max Lure each and every week that we have a bait lab segment. And yeah, they don't sell this stuff here, but it doesn't matter. They're still a great company. Make sure you check them out. So just a handful of things over the years that I have found are very effective when pursuing lingcod, especially near shore and not fishing real deep water. A lot of this stuff on here can be found at a number of sporting goods stores, no specific brands. I just buy things that I think look attractive, to a lingcod, and for crying out loud, they work pretty darn good. I don't have any white jigs or soft plastic white, which is always a good go-to color on the table tonight, but it's just because I'm out of them. Let's start with a rod. You know, you don't have to break the bank to get a stout rod for fishing lingcod. This is an Ugly Stick Tiger Series. It's a 7-foot rod rated at 20 to 50 pound. Works fantastic for even a decent size lingcod. This thing will handle it all day long. I have my Penn Warfare reel on here with a line counter. For me, a line counter is very important. Looking at your sonar and your depth, look at how deep of water and rock structure and bottom contour that you're fishing. And if you have a line counter on your reel and you can drop your presentation down, you can kind of gauge also if you're fighting current, depending on the drift and how hard the water's pushing out or running in. You're going to get either a lot of scope in your line, and you'll look at your line counter and you're 230 on the reel and you're 160 on the sonar. So that kind of tells you how you need to realign your boat or position, or perhaps use your kicker motor to keep you just a little bit, moving just a little slower so you're not covering so much ground and your line scope isn't basically trolling your presentation. It's all about getting it down into the rocks and structure, okay? So when you are dropping presentations basically off the side or back of the boat, depending on the current and the type of presentation you're doing, oftentimes, a nice 1 pound, 16 ounce or 1 pound jig head with a nice big soft plastic is a great way to go after them. These motor oil, big soft plastics here with these big paddle tails, little bit of glitter mixed in there. This motor oil in a number of presentations color works fantastic. Here is more of a multi-leg, lots of things moving around. Lingcod instinctively are reactionary predators. They like to ambush, attack their prey, and any of this stuff that's moving through the water as it's jigging up and down, it gets a lot of flutter, big tails on things. Again, white works very well, motor oil, some of these golds with speckle. All of this attracts, and don't be afraid to put scent on these things, because every once in a while you might be fishing rock croppings or small areas of hard surface and buildups of rocks and little pinnacles, and you may drift onto that hard bottom sand, not like the soft bottom structure, but the hard surface that the lingcod like to swim along and actually seek out prey. They will. And I've watched them on videos numerous times. They don't always just come right up on something and take it right away. They will, in fact, follow stuff for quite a while. And to me, it seems that if you have a predator fish that is following a prey and looking for that time to strike, if they do have some type of scent that comes off of it, put some herring oil on there, some anchovy, it's just going to entice them to bite a little sooner than taking far too long. So jigging these up and down, I mean, it's just simple. You're just basically working the rod, popping them up and down on the bottom, and keeping that thing fluttering up and down. Again, they're an aggressive fish. They're always looking to eat. They're territorial. They'll eat each other given the opportunity and lack of other food, but they really can get aggressive. So using upwards of 1 pound or a 16 ounce lead head on these big body soft plastics works very well. Kind of expensive if you're getting into the rocks and start losing these large jig heads. Now, these are not cheap. They don't give these away simply because it's a pound of lead and it's very expensive. One thing that you can do, if you find that the structure that you're fishing, you continue to get hung up and you're breaking some of these off, And of course, for me, I do like to fish bait periodically. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, we'll fish horse herring, we'll fish sand dabs. If you can go out and catch your sand dabs ahead of time, you can fish those live. And or, believe it or not, I do cure up rainbow trout and smaller kokanee, and the LINGCOD absolutely annihilate them. Don't think LINGCOD won't go after dead bait, especially if you're fishing something else other than just herring all the time. Give the trout a try, give the kokanee a try, and I'll be coming out with some brines and coloring techniques that I like to use, especially in that shallower water at times, because those fluorescents in those brines actually do make a difference, whether you've tried it or not. So one thing to think about, if you're using a 16-ounce big dropper lead off of a short spreader bar when you're fishing your bait and you're getting that hung up into the rocks, one thing that I started doing a few years ago, believe it or not, on the stick lead principle, I take the 1 pound, the 16-ounce mini pipe jig. That works great for LINGCOD with a hook on it. But again, you're dropping a hook right down there into the rocks, and oftentimes these can get hung up as well if you're fishing that double hook. Hang a little piece of bait on there or something. That works well also. But some things that I do, a little different, I know, but I take a short spreader bar when I'm going to fish bait, and I simply put, take that off of here, I simply put my pipe jig on there without any hooks. This is just simply my lead. Now, there's those that are in the camp of the copper makes a difference because it gives off some type of electrolysis and it attracts the fish. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Let me know where you end up on that via messages on our text. But for me, it's all about the weight and the slenderness of this bait. Much like a stick lead in the river and fishing rocks and canyons along ledges and drop-offs in rivers, believe it or not, this is my stick lead going down into the rock structure, albeit Puget Sound or out off of Westport or wherever I'm fishing my shallow lings. I will fish this dropper pipe jig as my stick lead off a short spreader, and then I simply run my leader out there, 2 feet a leader, 50 to 80 pound test, depending on where I'm fishing, depending on structure I'm fishing in. And of course, LINGCOD have extremely sharp teeth, so don't go shy on your leader. 7 and 6/0 hooks, and I will fish that length of leader. And the reason I like to go a good 24 inches or so is because as I multi-hitch and wrap that bait on there, and I didn't have any this evening, I apologize, but we'll bring it out later on as we move through the season. I like to hook that in there as a double rig and then multiple half hitches to kind of wrap that piece of bait up so it really holds together well as you're dropping it down in there. And you don't really have to do a whole lot with it. You can jig it up and down a little bit, or you can hit bottom, come up one crank, and just kind of let that hover, not allowing your pipe jig or your 1 pound stick lead, as I call it, to get trapped down into the rocks and the structure. It works really well, and you find that you don't lose a lot of gear. So give that a try if you're inclined to fish bait off the short spreader bar. I don't use the oversized or longer spreader bar that is ideal for halibut fishing. I go with that short stubby one, fishing my pipe jig or my 1 pound stick lead, okay? Another option that works well, something that's a little bit fun to do, is you just take, an 8 to 8.5 foot spinning rod. 10 to 20 pound range is a great one, 8 to 20 pound. We're casting these soft plastics with a 2-ounce jig head. I have braided line on here. You can fish a top shot if you want to. You don't have to. I left it tight on here. You don't really need to. LINGCOD don't care about line. Trust me, they're looking at this thing fluttering through the water, and they're going to hammer it. You will find LINGCOD along the kelp beds, some of the shallow rock croppings. You're casting it out, letting it sink a few seconds, and then just reel and jig it back to you, and just let that jig flutter up and down. You're going to get your sea bass or your black bass, depending on what you call them. You're going to get other rockfish species out of the kelp beds and your bottom structure, and you will pull LINGCOD out of those kelp beds and along that bottom structure simply by pitching. And you know what? There's so many different colors that you can get when you are targeting your sea bass and your rockfish and your LINGCOD. All of these work, different color contrast. Everybody on the boat fishing something different, and you're going to find that, they grab almost every one of them. Again, soft plastic, don't be afraid to put a little bit of scent on there, herring, anchovy, what have you. Something that's given off a good little oil slick behind it. It's the action, the movement, and the color that really trigger these fish to chase those things. And if you haven't done it with a spinning rod casting towards the structure of the kelp beds with a 2-ounce jig head and a soft plastic, you're missing out. Just another option for you as you go chase early season near shore lingcod. It works pretty well. So just a couple things to think about. Fish bait when given the opportunity, and if you guys like to see some bait curing recipes for those trout and kokanee, just wait till we get a little further into April here and start pulling them out of the backyard, and we'll go ahead and cure those up and show you how to fish those for lingcod and halibut as we roll into later in the spring and we get that halibut opportunity. So hopefully that clears up a couple of options. Give it a try. Let me know if you give your 1-pound stick lead a go. I find it favorable. It works very well for bait, and I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, we'll jump out of here for a quick break. We come back, we're going to wrap it up with Shane Anderson, North Fork Studios, in our studio, and put this conversation about the Chehalis Dam project to rest. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in the studio on FHN right after this.
Marine is the one-stop shop for the Pacific Northwest angler. Whether you are looking for a small skiff to fish the Sound or rivers, or a huge offshore tuna machine, Defiance Marine has it. At Defiance Marine, be sure to power your boat with a Honda Outboard Package. Take advantage of the reliability and 5-year top-to-prop warranty on your Honda outboards. Our service department is always here to help and serve you as the customer. Did you know Defiance Marine has boat financing experts to help get you the best term rates on your new boat purchase? If you need financing for that new boat, call us today. We guarantee the best price, best service on a repower for your current boat. Defiance Marine is a Honda Premier dealership and one of the largest on the West Coast. Defiance Marine also carries all the gear that you will need. Everything from auxiliary kicker motors to fishing tackle and bait. Defiance Marine has certified technicians that are top-notch at their job. Some of the best in the Pacific Northwest at evaluating your boat issues and problems. Stop in today or give us a call for all your needs at Defiance Marine.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
What if there was a smarter way to search for your new home? Introducing the Better Homes and Gardens real estate website and mobile app. This revolutionary new search tool puts your needs first. Narrow your search to what matters most to your family, like school data, school districts, and even walk scores. Get easy access to your local affiliated agent, as well as unique and local insights about neighborhoods and properties directly within the app. With synced and saved preferences, you'll always pick up wherever you left off. Get your smarter search started today with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
Welcome back in the studio. We're going to close this thing out, Shane, with a few final thoughts and information relative to this dam. Now, one of the things we haven't really discussed or brought out is the enhancement of the aquatic species and just the whole build out of that side of the argument, I guess. Kind of walk us through that mindset of that process, what that all involves.
Yeah, so there's what they're calling the Aquatic Species Restoration Plan, which is proposed the largest river restoration plan in state history. And the Chehalis has a tremendous amount of opportunity because of its rural character. You know, yes, 87% of the habitat's been degraded, but it's not like trying to recover the Duwamish or something. So if we're going to put money in, it's a great return on investment. You know, and in the whole dam restoration conversations, you know, there's also the do nothing approach. And the do-nothing approach doesn't look good for fish either. I mean, they're going to, you know, I think the thermal estimates are that 98% of the watershed's not going to be thermally optimal for salmon by 2080, is what the scientists are saying.
With the dam, the removal of all the trees and all that? Or
no, that's just normal. That's
just based on the direction our climate's going.
Yeah, correct? Without restoration at this point.
Gotcha, okay.
So, you know, without a restoration plan, you know, and even without the dam and without the restoration plan, we could be facing a problem. So restoration is key at this point, and it takes a long time to restore a river. So we need to kind of start growing trees right now. And part of that restoration is 450 miles of in-stream wood, replacing log jams, reconnecting old floodplains. The Chehalis is incredibly simplified river in that you look at the old, what they call LIDAR maps, is the maps that look down, and you can see all the old channels before they were buried by farms and stuff. And it was like moving all over the valley, and now it's just essentially you drive, you know, past the Twin Cities, and there's no trees, and it looks kind of like a irrigation ditch. But you know, part of, you know, what restoration means is creating some of that complexity, getting the river to spill out in floods, creating off-channel habitat for juvenile fish, growing trees in riparian areas, and there's a tremendous amount of fish barriers, culverts and whatnot in the Chehalis Basin. So
that
part of that are blocking fish passage. You know, part of that is plan is 450, you know, culverts that block fish right now to be replaced, along with 450 miles.
Won't those culverts get replaced regardless? Wouldn't those be part of the culvert replacement plan settlement that the state is obligated to do so? I would think they're already lumped in there. So I mean, some of that work's going to happen, right? Which is good. But the rest of the work that you're talking about is on the radar. It's been recognized as advantageous to do so. Where does this money come from?
Well, that would come from the state, and you know, since there isn't an ESA listing, there's no opportunity for much federal assistance at this point. So you know, and part of that restoration also provides flood attenuation benefits. You know, storing water up in the upper watershed so it doesn't all rush down at once in off-channel habitat in forests, that can really benefit, you know, flood damage reduction as well. You know, it is this whole, I should probably talk a little bit about the evolution of this whole thing. So basically,
please do.
You know, there's been 5 major floods. 2007 was like the most catastrophic. After that, a group of people in Lewis County started throwing around the idea of building a dam, just a kind of a group, and they got the PUD to sponsor the first study. PUD backed out because they didn't see any value in doing hydropower there. And it evolved into a big fight, especially with like the tribes, the Chehalis tribe and fish people and flood people. You know, like you're planning to do a dam, and it was actually 2 dams, 2 permanent dams, one on the South Fork and the PL Dam. And you know, now it's evolved to this temporary dam, and there's a restoration plan, but it's not mitigation. They kind of are there's like a flood damage reduction side to this strategy and a save the salmon strategy through restoration. But they aren't linked together. They might be politically linked together, but they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be 2 different tracks. So regardless of what happens with the dam, you know, we should all be advocating for this restoration plan if we want salmon in the Chehalis in the future.
Absolutely. As part of that, you know, it's often spoken of, it's well, we're destroying more land faster than we can reestablish habitat, and this is one area that's been identified. Here's what needs to happen to reestablish habitat. We need to get moving forward with it. Again, it's one of those things at times it seems to be caught up in the planning phase, the research phase, we got to do more research to hopefully secure funding phase. A lot of those conversations happen on all facets of salmon and steelhead recovery, Orca Task Force. Do we initiate getting aggressive on pinniped removal? How about the bird predation, 11-year study? You guys have heard me chime about that multiple times because it blows me away that we had to study bird predation for 11 years to come up with numbers that we now know for certain, right? Time for action. It's like we're getting to a tipping point on some of this stuff where if we wait much longer to start intervening, we're almost too late and so far behind we can't catch up or make a difference, right? So we need to get moving forward on some of this stuff. I found it interesting. Is it the Panesco? How do you pronounce that guy's name?
Yeah, Vince Panesco.
Yeah, Panesco's tree farm.
Yep.
Inherited from his father, which you guys will see in the film. But he pointed out where he was standing on that gravel bar, and he said, it's going to go from this point north over here to south, and basically when this retention is happening and holding back water, I'm standing right here in 200 foot of water.
Almost 300.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the misnomer too. People hear about this dam and you look at the schematic, and I put the picture up there to show kind of what the engineering design of it is. And it's a flow through dam. It doesn't obstruct anything. The fish passage will happen, and they want to paint this as it's constantly flowing like a natural river, so the fish will be fine. The fact is, as we creep along and have more high water events and they have to retain water back more often, once you get past the dam, it's just a dam reservoir.
Yep.
There's no natural flow. There's no natural spawning ground. The sediment fills in. It becomes a reservoir. More often than not, even if it's only 25, 30 feet deep, guess what? It's a reservoir. It's not flowing natural current speed. Slow-moving water has been shown to warm up exponentially. The Columbia River is a prime example, and they hold back water. Certain times of the year, that water temperature can go up a couple degrees in no time when the sun's out, the water's a little dirty, absorbs more heat. I mean, there's all these things to consider. Silt-based rivers that have suspended load in them, with staining, absorb more heat because it's a darker surface, right? All these things factor in. If they want to say that it continues to flow water underneath it, sure, it does, but not at a natural flow rate from the dam backwards. And the thing's 300 feet tall. It's not a low head dam. It's not a low head dam like we have how many hundreds of those all over the state on some of these rivers. Some of them the fish can jump. Some of them they've had to build, diversions around or fish ladders to support. But it's not just a low flow dam. This is a flood control dam of 300 feet in height.
With a foundation to be built twice as big if needed in the future.
Correct. It's expandable.
It's expandable.
Yep. Going this way to bring it out even further so that the water level can continue to go up higher into the hills, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Because they're going to find 30 years from now it's not retaining enough water.
Right.
And guess what? We need to build it out even more, get wider so we can go taller, and then we go taller and then it goes higher up into the hills. And that 7-mile dredge of river that fills now becomes 10 or 12 miles because the water backs up, right? So there's no good outcome in my pea brain to putting a dam in. Not when we're talking about salmon and steelhead recovery to the scale and level that we continue to talk about on our show and throughout the Northwest, and anybody that has their hand in this effort to bring back fish and fish restoration and save orca and habitat, reclaiming habitat, and trying to find balance in nature with predation issues and just all these things we continue to talk about. God forbid, removing 4 dams on the Snake River, right, the earth portions of those, to try and reestablish natural current speed and flow for fish survivability and outbounding smolt. And we can go on for days on this stuff. You can do all that and then do nothing about the predation, and we're not getting anywhere. So we got to find balance on this stuff at some level. If you want to get serious about talking about millions upon millions of dollars of removing the Snake River dams, you also better have a damn matter-of-fact conversation about predation control, because all you're going to do is feed them more smolt, right? Well, we can't talk about supplementing more and more rivers with hatchery programs because we're going to put a dam in. It's proven historically that's not the answer. Yes, we need more hatchery production on some of our watersheds to keep up with the demand of things going on. Yes, we need more hatchery production to feed orca. Yes, we need more hatchery production in some of our rivers. I would like to have recognized as a put and take. Cowlitz River, we're not going to recover wild steelhead in the Cowlitz River. Toutle, yeah, there's wild steelhead in the Toutle, but Cowlitz River, right? So let's let people fish and take fish home. That's just where I'm at. Chehalis watershed, opportunity to continue to maintain and hopefully recover some of the wild fish runs. People better give some serious thought in the direction they want to take this thing.
Yeah, and going back to the genetic diversity, it's not just steelhead and chinook, it's also the coho. Have some of the most incredible genetic diversity of any watershed in Washington. They did this presentation at the ASRP, the Aquatic Species Conservation Symposium, with one of the genetic guys from WDFW, and he showed compared Puget Sound to the Chehalis, and the Puget Sound was like, the genetics were like orange, the family. Oh. It was almost all genetically related in Puget Sound, the coho.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chehalis was just this rainbow of diversity.
Is that right?
Like every single sub-basin had these different genetic profiles and run timing. So having that much genetic diversity in a wild population is the key to abundance, it's the key to the future, and we need to preserve it as the best we can.
Couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much for coming in. We scratched the surface on this thing. Huge project. If we have opportunity for a public viewing, if the coronavirus doesn't shut the doors on everybody, what's the premiere date and location that you're going to feature the film?
So Olympia Film Festival, Capitol Theater, April 21st, and we're also going to be doing screenings throughout the entire watershed over the next several months. Like I said earlier, it'll be on PBS sometime this spring too. If you want to, don't go out in public, you can watch it from the comfort of your couch. And I'll be updating it pacificrivers.org, and then also if you want to comment on the dam, you can go check out this new website, the ChehalisRiverAlliance.org. And there's a take action, and it'll take you right to the comment page to comment on your thoughts and feelings about this.
Perfect.
It's your river.
We'll be posting all that up for people to make sure they can find that link and that information and get on there and click on and weigh in and let your voice be heard.
Absolutely.
Whether it's either out in public or from the confines of your own home.
Yep.
Or your Viz Queen wrapped house.
Hope to see you out on the road. At a movie show.
Blows over, we can all get back to living, right? So if everything else gets closed down, you know what? Time to go buy yourself a fishing rod and just get out away from people and go fishing. So Shane, thank you so much. Your work does not go unnoticed, my friend. Doing fantastic things. Appreciate you going into projects like this with so much information. I hope it encourages folks to seek out more information by following It Is What You Do, locate you on Facebook or through North Fork Studios and other projects that you've done over the years too. They can go back and watch some of those and kind of get a sense of what you're all about. So fantastic job. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You'll be back, I guarantee it.
Awesome.
All right, it's going to do it for us this week. Plenty to talk about as we move on through the week. Want to remind everybody, go to our Facebook page. Check out the information for our Kokanee Roundup, Lake Roosevelt Kokanee Roundup with Fish Hunt Northwest and Max Lure presented by. And we will be over there June 4, 5, and 6. All the information's on our Facebook page. If you have questions, go ahead and hit us up on Messenger or post it up in the comments section on that particular posting. I've pinned it to the top of the page, so it will hover there for quite some time. Let's start gathering the folks together and make it a point to join us over there on the east side first week of June. And with that, Barnum, we're going to call it a night. We'll be active on the social media throughout the week, as we would like you to be also. So make sure you hit us up with your questions and your comments. Post some pictures if you get out and harvest something. And have a great week. Be safe and wash your damn hands.